Welcome to Aether United Interviews, where we have interviews with people within the blockchain as well as various esports. I'm your host, Ryan Chang, and today we are joined by XiangJun. XiangJun is a Fintech Consultant for FINLYNC and JEDTrade, two prominent international businesses in blockchain and finance. For FINLYNC, he trains senior officials in Taiwan, Singapore, and China, and also does groundbreaking research on developments in financial technologies. For JEDTrade, XiangJun researches and provides advice on financial developments in technologies such as blockchain. XiangJun is also a current member of Blockchain at Berkeley, which is UC Berkeley's student-led organization with over 200 members that trains blockchain engineers, blockchain consultants, and provides consulting services to Fortune 500 companies. We called him in today to provide a more in-depth understanding of how blockchain will not only add value to finance, but also be used to enable ideas and concepts that were unimaginable before its creation. Hello, how are you, XiangJun?
Yeah, great.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm good too. Where are you right now? Are you in America or?
No, so right now I'm in China and it's morning like 11 a.m.
Oh, okay. It's night over here. So yeah, okay, cool. So as you know, Aether United is creating an esports brand by using blockchain to provide our fans with the power to help manage their favorite teams.
Right.
And on behalf of our fans, I would like to ask you some questions regarding blockchain and why it's our apparent choice for the project.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, cool. Moving on to question number one. What is so unique about the blockchain revolution and its long-term implications for our economy?
So I think everyone knows that blockchain is a quite hot topic, but to really understand blockchain is not an easy task. So from my opinion, I think what the blockchain revolution holds are mainly two aspects. So the first one is the monetary flow, and the second one is the information flow. So what the monetary flow might be more obvious because it's manifest in Bitcoin. The very role of Bitcoin is to facilitate monetary transactions across borders, peer-to-peer transactions without intermediation, say the banks, say the financial institutions. The flow about information is less subtle and it's more on a philosophical standpoint of view. But I think what blockchain has changed about the information flow has long-term implication for the economy. Right. So let's start with the monetary flow first. So one of the quintessential example of how Bitcoin has changed the monetary flow would be Bitcoin. So instead of going through financial institutions, say PayPal or the banks, I can pay money to you. So that's what Bitcoin allows us to do. And with this, a lot of the startups right now is oriented with the concept of cross-border remittance, about building Bitcoin to fiat exchange. So that is what a lot of people are doing right now because Bitcoin has fundamentally provided a new way for the monetary flow in the economy. And with that, there's some implication for the GDP. With the old modus operandi where we use banks, it's very slow. It takes days for cross-border transfer. And for company-to-company transfer, not only do they charge a very high commission at times, they also delay the payment. Right. And when you talk about cross-border payment, like to some less developed countries where this political situation is much more volatile, there's always a risk of non-payment. So the insurance risk is very high. With blockchain, everything is certain, is set. So once I pay you, you will get the amount and it's non-reversible. So with that, I believe that it's going to facilitate the monetary flow within our huge world economy. And the whole GDP is determined by the amount of currencies you have, but also the monetary capacity, is determined by the amount of currency you have, but also by the rate of flow of the currency. And with Bitcoin and its associated cryptocurrency technology when it comes to payments, the rate of flow, the monetary flow, will be a lot faster than it is now. So projects can get funding very easily and money can be transferred very easily. So there's not much liquidity, not much shortage on cash and stuff like that. So I think that is going to help our economy grow down the road in the long run. And so I'll talk about the information flow, which is much more subtle. It is quite difficult to realize that what Bitcoin or blockchain in general has brought us is a revolution about the network topology, how we do business, how human beings organize themselves. So let's take a look at the very ancient times where we have peer-to-peer trading. how do I trade my goods with your goods? Say I produce silk and you produce apple, you grow trees, right? So I'll go to the market and find you and we will exchange the good. And so you see how people and society organize themselves is around peer-to-peer. And if I go to a store, I want to buy stock, I need to find someone who has the stock and we exchange the entitlement to that stock, which may come in the form of paper. But right now, with the advancement in information flow, we have a centralized trading system where everything is digital. So instead of talking to the stakeholders, talking to people who have entitlement to that stock, to that company, we talk to a centralized system. And everyone is talking to one party to communicate the information system. And then one party is sitting in the middle, facilitating all the transaction. So that is the current model we have. And with the blockchain revolution, what it promises is sort of a different model. So we have a mediated, what I call mediated peer-to-peer. It is not entirely peer-to-peer like the thing we saw in the past. It's mediated peer-to-peer with the blockchain, mediated by blockchain, which connects us together. The very downside of the model that we're trying to use in the Asian part is that it's not efficient. So that's why we have moved on to a centralized model right now. But with the blockchain revolution, we have solved the connectivity issue. So we can connect to parties, peers very easily on the network. So we are going back to the mediated peer-to-peer network. So that's why you see a lot of business models have changed. So right now we have ICOs. In the past, we go to investors. And right now we have crowdfunding for events, which can be done more easily. Of course, we can do using the internet, the conventional outlet, but the reach is limited. So I think, in summary, what blockchain revolution has changed fundamentally is first monetary flow and the information flow. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you. And moving on to number 2, how is blockchain superior to traditional financial methods for startups like banking and stuff like that?
Right. So as for the traditional financing method, basically people go to investors.
Right.
Right. And if I want to start a project, I either go to investors for them to invest in my startup, or I go to the banks to borrow money. Or when as a small and medium enterprises, when I encounter cash, shortage, I go to the banks for borrowing as well. Right. So what blockchain has fundamentally changed is that I have a wider reach. Why I didn't want to go to the public for money is because I cannot go to all of them at the same time. I must approach one at a time, and that is very time consuming. The same for startups who have an idea but have no money, right? I can go to a lot of general public. I can ask my mom, I can ask people, my friend. The thing is, it's very hard to raise money that way. It's not efficient. What blockchain has solved is about the efficiency issue. If we look at the ICO space right now, recently, Banker has completed its ICO, right? And they have raised 153 million in just 3 hours. That is some kind of financing record we have never seen before. And so with that kind of reach, startups don't have to go to institution for financing. They can go to the public. And and this is also good on the other side for the general public who had no ways of investing in startups because of efficiency mismatch, the efficiency issues. So right now, I can invest in things I want instead of putting money in the bank. So I think that is a much better model for both people who deposit money in the bank, but it's also for startups who need the money. So that is my.
And why is this relevant?
So I think this is relevant in the larger context of what we're trying to, the world trends. So if you see the sharing economy model that has been taking place right now, what we observe, it is not really sharing model. It is still a centralized model. It's called internet-enabled centralized model. So they have a wider reach, but fundamentally they are still sitting in the center, charging a very high commission fee. The whole thing is not as distributed, it's not as decentralized as it should be. That is what the blockchain promises and what the blockchain wants the world to achieve. So what I mean is that individual players who are in the maybe Airbnb or Uber network do not really have the power to switch and do not really have the power to take their past transactions onto somewhere else and to demonstrate to others that they have the history of taking passengers. So Airbnb or Uber, those centralized agencies, are still controlling those transactions, still controlling those transactional data. Whereas if we move everything onto the blockchain, individual participants in the network, say Aether United, or be some other Uber equivalent on the blockchain network, will have much greater control when it comes to what they own, like information or how they want to switch the exit option. The exit cost is much lower. So I think that is one of the advantages of using blockchain. And another thing is that right now, in a world with very intense robotization and automation, a lot of people are not, the job prospect is not very good. In actual fact, a lot of jobs are in peril because they are replaced by robots. And in this case, the ideal situation is that people own part of what he's going to consume, and people own part of what he's going to produce. So we are all individual producers and we are all individual sellers, and we're entitled to what we have. And we have a steady stream of income from the factors of production that we own. So I think that is ideal situation we are trying to achieve. And we can only get there with the use of blockchain, with the issuance of tokens and stuff like that. So I have a stake in whatever I have. I have like somebody else have a stake in my things as well. So everything is delineated and everything is decentralized. I do not have to rely on a centralized agency to do this, because it would be going to be very messy if I'm going to have some centralized agency engage in this business, because there's a lot of accounting to do and stuff like that. Whereas blockchain, by its very nature, solves this issue seamlessly. So that's my take on it.
Cool. And are there any drawbacks to blockchain? You say a lot of good things, but
yes, certainly there will be drawbacks to anything. So first of all, there are a lot of high-profile hacking cases recently, especially. So this can be seen in many ways. So first of all, some of the exchanges in the past are hacked, and a lot of bitcoins are stolen. And we all know that reversibility about Bitcoin. So once the Bitcoins are stolen, the transaction can't be reversed. Unlike what would happen in a centralized agency, they can just reverse the database, right? So there's a finality to it. So that's both a good thing and a bad thing. So we're saying that Bitcoin is a tool. We're not saying that it's the best thing that we're trying to achieve. So Bitcoin is a tool for us to use when it is necessary. And the second thing is about, I think this is more subtle, but it's much more important, is that what underpins the Bitcoin operation is cryptography, is cryptographic key management. So the key management becomes very important. Can you access your wallet and can you access your account? And those keys are very hard to manage. It is not like the password or username I set. It is a long alphanumerical string, which is known as a private key. So how does an average user know, or how can they know and manage the key themselves? So there must be some sort of wallet providers and stuff like that. But with wallet providers is another layer of risk. So how are you going to deal with that risk? And so from the company side who started ICO, how are you going to manage the wallet, multi-signature wallet? And what if one of the signature is lost and stuff like that, because you are going to be held responsible for the funds raised. So I think those are the potential issues that using blockchain might face. But with careful planning, those things can be solved. That's how I feel. So as of right now, the ecosystem is in a very positive direction. We have wallet providers, and we also have quite convenient access to our wallets. And for the ICOs, I have not heard of ICO people losing people's funds and stuff like that, because we have quite established a set of protocol of how to manage ICOs and funds on the cryptocurrency network, right?
And so you said that the community was doing some things to prevent these drawbacks, right? What are some of these? What are some of these solutions?
Right. So I think when it comes to the security aspect, when it comes to the how do we manage the keys, how do we manage the wallet, there's a solution of called hardware wallets. So those things are being reinvented. And also, a lot of the servers right now run by the big exchanges are very distributed, and they control access to the servers very strictly. So only the ones with the, I think some of them don't even use the conventional authentication method of username and password because that was not secure, as mentioned by several articles in the past. So I think the security practice is being advanced right now. And so I think these are some of the practices that people use to mitigate the drawbacks. And another way to mitigate the drawbacks is that I have a portfolio balancing when it comes to the crypto asset and my fiat asset. So there's a sort of a hedging over that. Yeah.
Okay, and moving on to the next question. Aether United, my company, is creating a token called Rune. And it's a token for fans to interact with our teams that we purchase and manage. So how does the use of tokens help Aether United?
Okay, sure. So I think I want to mention something about Aether United. So I think it's a very innovative model when it comes to the esports industry. In the past, what people do is that people sit in front of their laptop and go to some of the channels and they watch teams playing video games. And they often have complaints about why the team managers do things this way and why the owners do things that way. Why they hire these kind of people but not that kind of people. They think it's not a good match, right? So I think what Aether United have created is a channel for people who are sitting in front of their laptop with the actual team who is playing the game. So Aether United is trying to use blockchain and also the token to engage people who are esports fans and have them control a team themselves. And with respect to tokens, I think why we adopt a tokenized method is that it is very expensive, admittedly, to purchase a team. And sometimes it might cost millions of dollars, and to manage a team, it might cost a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
For individuals to invest that much, it is not something quite feasible. So what tokens have in store for us is that we break the ownership into different parts. So its tokenized asset is entitlement to part of the collective ownership. So, and if you break down the ownership into parts, you can sell to people very easily. In the past, you couldn't really do that because it involves a lot of contractual work, but with blockchain, you can. So that is something that is really promising about blockchain. And so I think Aether United has come to the right platform to do this adventure.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
And next question. How does blockchain, you talk about transparency a lot, right?
Right.
And how does blockchain ensure transparency towards its users?
Right. So I think transparency is a key when you want to engage the cloud, when you want to engage the crowd, because people do want to know that you are being responsible, you are being accountable, and you are doing whatever they wish you to do. You are not misappropriating the funds and stuff like that, right? So I think what blockchain essentially allows that the crowd to do is that they have direct access to what the voting result is. And so right now we are adopting a democracy-based, a democracy-led model when it comes to our team management for esports. And so we need people to vote. And in the past, if we take it offline, it is very hard because it involves identity verification, whether you are a true stakeholder of our Aether United teams, and involves a lot of manpower. And we also need to consider the difficulty of setting up voting booth, like maybe worldwide or stuff like that. So the main thing is about scalability. There was no scalability if you take everything that you are doing offline, or if you take everything that you're doing right now online onto the blockchain platform, which is exactly what we're trying to do. You can adopt the democracy-based model in a scalable way. So we have scalability. And with the use of blockchain, there's transparency, because whenever people have voting, the results will be made public. So on your side, there'll be accountability. So people know what the decision is, and people expect you to carry out the decisions. And so there's a live exchange of the managerial decisions to be made. So I think that really engages the fans. They do not really see it as an asset they have, but it's much more an active investment they want to put themselves into, because they are all very passionate about esports. So maybe at some point in time in the future, this sort of thing can be integrated into the esports channels or stuff like that, so they can make real-time decision and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of a bright prospect, bright future for Aether United.
And so you would agree that transparency is a very good thing for our.
Right.
Cool. And last question: how does blockchain ensure safety? Because with transparency, how does it also ensure safety?
So I think safety, as I mentioned, can be put in the context of the fund management for the team. So whether the fund is appropriately managed and used by Aether United, and safety when you put in the context of hardware wallet management, I'm sure Aether United have a set of protocols to follow the established protocols. So I think I can understand safety in those two aspects, and Aether United is managing it very well.
Cool. All right. And yeah, so you also said that transparency is good for Aether United. Right. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I think why transparency is good is that it gives people confidence in their organization. And so with confidence, they want to engage themselves. They want to involve themselves in what Aether United is trying to achieve. So I think there's a sort of synergy between the people between the fans and also the team and also Aether United. And second, we have accountability. And these are the things that people want to see as well. But I do want to mention a bit of potential issues that we might face with this approach. So the first of all is about the voting participation rate. So as you probably know, the voting participation rate, the voter turnout in the United States is very low, right? So when you take everything online, we're not quite sure about the voter turnout rate. It's not because they do not want to turn out. Sometimes they are circumscribed by they are overtaken by events, right? So they cannot free themselves from their current engagements, from the current undertakings to vote online. So how do we resolve those issues? So I think those things need to be written clearly. So is there a quorum? If we do not reach the quorum, are we going to wait, right? Because I bet there are some people who buy the tokens, the runes, for investment purposes. They just want the thing to sit there. They do not want to seek active management, right? So they have different people, different types of rune holders. So how do we make sure that people who do want to participate get a chance to participate, and people who do not want to participate will not hinder the progress of the team, right? And so another thing is very subtle, is that because every voting decision is made online, that means everything is going to be public. While there's accountability, there's also a concern about divulging sensitive information. So because every decision that you have made is known to other teams. So will they use those information against you? So maybe there's a better model to it, or maybe we have better ways of doing it. So that part I'm not quite sure. So it's still area to be explored, I feel. Right.
Yeah. Good questions. We have also had these questions as well, and we're working hard to fix them. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So thank you for this interview. Do you have any other things you'd like to say or anything you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, so I think blockchain revolution is really promising. It has a very long-term implication, far-fetched implementation for our whole economy and the whole world, because it fundamentally transformed the way we do business, because it fundamentally altered information flow and monetary flow. So I'm really looking forward to what Aether United could bring to us, and also what other blockchain startups could bring to the world. Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you. So to the fans out there, if you want to see XiangJun's connections, if you want to connect to him, see his sites, see his things online, all the links will be down below. Same thing for us at Aether United, our social media, our website, everything will be down below. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, XiangJun. And have a good rest of your day.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good night.